Hey watercolor wizards, Hajra here. Today I'm sharing a watercolor I did of an awesome, fantastical goat. I have a great love for animals, and goats are no exception, so this was an easy piece to invest in. The horn shape for my magical goat was based on the horns seen on a wild goat called a markhor that is also the national animal of Pakistan. I used a triad of primary colors for this piece, so the watery browns I'm dropping in to start the face are mixed from mixing all three colors, the red, yellow, and blue. For the tonal changes in the goat's coat, light, soft, layered patchy washes was the way I went. And all of this is thin, watery glazes dropped onto wet or damp paper. I started out the eye with an oblong hazel pupil and yellow-orange surrounding it. I continued to lay down variations of brown and orange mixed from my triad for his hair and a little bit of diluted red for his cute little nose area. If you've ever watched the sci-fi series Farscape from some years ago, you might remember the pilot of the ship Moya and how peaceful and cute and wise he looked. Apparently, his face was modeled on the face of a goat. And that makes sense because maybe it's those oblong pupils or the beards they grow or the peaceful motion of chewing cud, but goats really do have a characteristically sage look to them. The long dropped ears and hair pattern of my imaginary goat are based off of a handsome Oberhasli boar mixed buck, rather than a markhor. The bell and the horns were really the funnest part. I painted in the bell with violet and then blue dabs, and later I'll come back with white touches to shift the highlights. Along those lines, I decided a fantastical prince of goats would have more colorful horns, so I mixed analogous colors from yellow-green to blue to match the bell at the end of his horn. In ancient books and tapestries, unicorns actually looked much more like dainty goats with a single horn, and that was also how they were described. In modern times, we've made unicorns much more horse-like. I think that the original goaty unicorns feel much more mischievous, elusive, delicate, and magical. I chose the blue-green analogous color group because orange and red show up a lot in the goat's coat, and blue and green are color complements of orange and red, respectively, so it makes for good color contrast. The pattern is definitely reminiscent of striped peppermint, as I've always loved the magical yummy swirls in peppermint candies. I think I may have made his beard a bit too big and full, but it's because I like to imagine that this magical luck goat lived merrily and healthily to a very ripe old age. The beard is more varied brown mixes, with some white gouache to give some obvious hair strands. I used Fabriano watercolor paper, not Arches or Arch watercolor paper, so it didn't hold the brown lines as much as I'd like, so I had to add the white in to help. Then I added a very light shadow on those fairy horns with some orange. It's the complement of the blues, plus it'll make the horns match the orange, red, brown goat better. Since I've already used a bit of white paint in this piece, I don't mind dabbing in some white gouache highlights to make those horns shine. Finished up the hair on his neck and back using the same process as I showed on the head, and I went back and touched up and brightened colors as needed on the horns, and we've got a majestic, strong, and sage prince of goats, capable of magic and adventure as any old unicorn. Thanks for parking your brushes here. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Check out the links in the description below, and until next time, fantastical painting adventures and a goaty good night.